We are the podcast that brings you a wide variety of guests that can speak to a lot of diverse topics, and today is no difference. We're fortunate enough to have Chris Pistorius. He is the founder of KickStart Dental Marketing, which has consistently been listed as one of the top dental marketing companies in the country by UpCity, SEO For Growth, and DesignRush expertise in AgencyVista. Having over 15 years of experience in dental marketing, he has worked with countless dentists and orthodontists across multiple facets of marketing, consulting, and coaching. He shares his expertise by giving marketing seminars across the country and hosting a weekly dental marketing podcast. Before starting his dental marketing agency in 2009, Chris worked for online marketing giants such as AOL, Time Warner, and MapQuest. And he also holds marketing certificates and is trained by Google on how dentists and other businesses can get the most out of their marketing efforts. Also, not only is he a fellow podcaster, but he's also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Internet Marketing for Dentists. So, Chris, an awesome resume. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about the dental marketing for sure, since that's kind of your specialty. But I think when we first initially talked, one thing that really struck me is that if I'm not wrong, if I remember correctly, you used to just have a typical marketing agency kind of all across the board, anybody that came in. And so you decided to kind of niche down a little bit and go with the dental marketing. I just think that's very interesting because, well, from my opinion, you've been able to become an expert in that limited space about exactly what their consumers need, want, and how to attract that business. So if you don't mind, could you kind of walk us through, that process, kind of what led you to decide to do that, and then how that's worked for you?
Yeah, definitely. When we first started the first year or so, we kind of took on anybody that would pay us, honestly.
Yeah, right.
So we'd get a auto repair guy, a lawyer, a dentist, whatever it may be. And what we found out pretty quickly, really, Roy, was that, every time we took on a new industry, we really had to learn the lingo, kind of the ins and the outs of the business. And sometimes that took too long. And our clients weren't getting, the type of return that they wanted because we were kind of catching up and trying to learn their business.
Right.
So that's when we decided that, we need to pick a niche and go with it and just become experts in that niche. So we kind of looked at our books and our accounts, and we had, 5 or 6 dentists at the time, and we were getting great results for them. They were pretty easy to work with. So we're like, let's go for it. Now, the problem with that is dentistry is extremely competitive in terms of people trying to sell to dentists. So we had to come up with a strategy to make ourselves unique. And, that was, almost 11 years ago now. And we haven't really looked back. So it's been a great ride. But we just found that niching down allowed us to really focus on clients and get the best results for clients.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because, one thing you said that sounds very true is that, every industry has some kind of lingo, and their consumers want to hear, some kind of a pain point. So, I mean, if you're, this wide range, you got to learn all the pain points for everybody. So anyway, I'm sure that helped. Now, so let's talk about marketing yourself. So once you made this decision, when you walked into or called or however, you made initial contact with the dentist, how did that go? Were they impressed that you were kind of focusing in on them, or did they really not care? How was that conversation?
Yeah. You mean the existing clients that we had, or just new ones?
New ones. Whenever you were out, kind of pitching your services, did that hold some weight with them?
It definitely did, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of, especially in healthcare, anything in healthcare, there's a lot of stuff that you've got to know about marketing wise. One of those examples are HIPAA regulations, protecting patient information.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't know, and even some people in healthcare don't realize this, is that even before a patient becomes a patient, you have to protect their information. So, for instance, if they just fill out a form on your website saying, hey, I might want to be a new patient, that has to be protected under HIPAA guidelines. So we took the time, the money, and we had some HIPAA consultants come in and make sure all of our systems were protecting data and encrypting everything. And so we became HIPAA certified. But that's just one example of, niching down and then being able to talk to a dentist about that. Not only do you know the lingo, but you can also protect them and make sure that their practice is protected.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I wasn't aware of that, even before they were a client. And it's funny you bring that up, because just this morning they were kind of rehashing the whole Tiger Woods incident that happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm not sure if you heard, but the I guess California Department of Public Safety, whoever their like their state trooper department, they said that they could not even release details on on the incident, which happened on a public roadway. So it was surprising, how tight the HIPAA regulations really truly are.
Yeah, I heard that same thing, and it's a serious deal. And it's we've seen practices, not our clients, thankfully, but we've seen dental practices affected by this, and there can be big fines, 20, 50, $100,000 a pop. So the government's pretty serious about it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty serious thing, and it's something that all healthcare providers should be aware of.
And is that more wrapped around, just for my edification, is that more wrapped around just kind of adding an extra layer of protection once somebody fills out a form?
Yeah, it's a lot of security, a lot of encrypting. You've got to make sure that whatever database that information goes into is secured and protected and locked up. And trust me, there's a whole checklist of things that they want to make sure that it's done. Also, anybody that can see that data has to be trained on how to protect it. So all of our staff members here went through several hours of training on how to protect data. And we had to make sure all of our computers, for instance, had, malware security and, all these other security protocols. So there's a lot to it, but, it's one of those things that you just got to do, and you got to protect yourself and your patients. So we thought it'd probably be worth it to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, no, that's great, because like you said, sometimes, in business, I always say this, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. But then there's also that when we figure it out, we need to have that trusted person to go to. So I'm sure a lot of dentists that, they think HIPAA and they think they know just protecting the consumers or people that are their patients, and never really thought about that. And then the extra security, I think, on top of that is always the training the staff that, we don't need to click on anything that we don't know what it is, and have a very tight security protocol that's wrapped around that as well.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is now everybody working from home in some capacities anyway. So you've got to make sure now that like your Wi-Fi at home is under certain security protocol. So there's a lot to it. And I actually, on my podcast, I did a session not too long ago with a HIPAA compliancy officer, and she really went into all the details of it, and even some stuff that I didn't know. So there's a lot there, and a lot for a dental practice owner to really think about and know. So yeah.
So what? Okay, so you made this decision. We're going to just go with dentist, orthodontist in that realm. So what are some of the quirky things that you have found that you've had to adjust to in order to reach the audience? Something that may be different from just the normal, standard marketing that you may do for another company.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of it depends on what type of patient the practice owner is after. We have clients that are, after, they'll take all kinds of insurances, everyone out there. And then we have some clients that do fee for service only. So they only really accept cash, and they don't really do anything with insurance. So, and then there's everything in between. So, I think the quirkiness of it is just being able to understand who it is that they want to market to.
Yeah.
And once we have a good grip on that, then that makes the marketing campaign that much easier, because we have a well-defined target, and we can target that, utilizing a lot of different methods. So I think it's all about identifying it, adjusting, adapting, and then going after that market segment. Where it becomes a little bit more quirky, though, is when a client comes to us and they don't know who they want to target. So that takes a little bit deeper conversation, and we've got to help them kind of figure that out. But it's all good.
Yeah, and I would assume that in this business, most of the people that you're trying to attract are very short fused, that if you move to a new town, maybe you're searching out to get a new dentist, but most people are like, I don't even want to think about this dentist thing until I need it. And so now, unfortunately, got a toothache. I'm in pain, so I'm on the computer, trying to get the closest dentist or somebody that will take my insurance or whatever. So, how did y'all adjust to that?
Yeah, so we like to. So you've heard the whole egg in one basket thing, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. And a lot of times we find dental practices that are just doing SEO, like search engine optimization, getting their website to rank high on Google or
Yeah.
a search engine. So they just do that and just focus on that. Or some might just do like Google ads, right? Well, what we take a strategy of, we'll try to create about 12 different baskets and put one egg in each one of those baskets.
Right.
Because we want to create a marketing strategy that's all about bringing in new patients from multiple places: Facebook, Twitter, Google, Yahoo, Bing, text messaging on your website. There's a lot of different avenues. So what we really try to do is spread that around so that if something happens and Google changes their rules, for instance, on SEO, on how to rank,
Right.
one day you can be ranking on the first page and the next day you're not ranking at all.
Right.
So
Right.
your new patient leads could go from, 20 a month to 0.
Yeah.
Well, with our strategy, we've got backups so that we're drawing in, patients from all over the place. And I think that's really critical in, ensuring security and long-term marketing strategy for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is a practice that really transcends to most companies. We talk about having well-rounded because, we want to do certain things for those people that just got on the computer or phone or looking for me, today, right this minute. But we also want to build that the long-term strategy and viability that, we're doing the getting information out there, educating people, having things that are living forever on the internet. So maybe I don't need you today, but 2, 3, 4 months from now, you've built a big enough of a pipeline that when I get on there and do a search, you're going to come up.
Yeah. And, doing that kind of egg in a basket analogy, we're able to attract different people in different stages. So for instance, when somebody's doing a search on Google for a dentist, they're typing in things like tooth pain, dentist near me. So they kind of have their hands up. They're ready to go to a dentist, right?
Right.
Whereas Facebook sometimes is more about getting your name out in the local community, getting your brand out there. And sometimes you find people that are ready to visit a dentist then. So by utilizing kind of two different strategies there, you can really cover a lot of ground marketing wise.
Yeah. Yeah. And you made a comment about another good thing about the diversification is if somebody changes their algorithms or tweaks, there may be a setback for a period of time to give you a chance to catch up on that strategy for sure. But, we can also go a little deeper about maybe, because I've heard in the past about making sure that you maintain your website and that is the focus, because there was a period of time where people focused on a social media platform. And I guess the theory was that, well, if you have your own website and you focus on that, you can control, a lot of the aspects of that. Whereas if you're building all of your followings on a social media channel, the minute they change, it can be even more devastating.
Yeah, no question. We try to build long-term marketing assets for our clients, and the more control that we and our clients have over it, the better. So whenever you're doing anything like that, like SEO or Facebook advertising, you've got to really have somebody on top of it to see these changes coming and allow yourself to adapt and adjust to those as quickly as possible. But yeah, there's no question. I mean, you want to always try to build your own assets as much as you can because you have the most control over those, but sometimes you can't control everything. So
Right.
you just got to have to make the best decisions, for your practice and what's going to work well for your practice.
Yeah. So what are some mistakes, like people that, like myself, that try to do too much on my own? What are some of the really easy, big mistakes that you're seeing out there?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing that we see is in this, anything that I'm saying right now doesn't really just apply for dental, by the way.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, a lot of this applies to any business out there. So But what we see a lot is a dental practice or an orthodontist will come to us and say, oh yeah, we tried Google ads and, we spent, $5,000 a month for 6 months and we didn't get anything out of it. Well, let me tell you, Google ads, if you're doing it on your own, is a beast. You've got to really know the ins and the outs of it to get it to perform accurately.
Right.
There's probably anybody that's listening to this is probably thinking, oh, this is exactly what happened to me. But that's the biggest thing is that we have dentists that have tried ads on their own, just haven't got anything out of it, spent a bunch of money though. And they're just so complex that you really need an expert to look at that.
Yeah, anything that Google actually they touch, it seems like, they've got some very smart engineering type people, and these interfaces that they design, they are very deep and very technical. So yeah, unless you're messing with it all the time. And, I kind of laugh at this example of myself. I was doing some YouTube advertising, putting up some clips, and really wasn't getting much activity. And so I started looking through, and I noticed that the devices that people are mostly looking at were TVs. Anyway, I was like, hey, I don't even know what's going on. So when I finally looked through there, somehow instead of for the audience, I had checked Europe instead of the United States. So, so there's a lot of people in Europe. But, it's easy. Those little mistakes like that are easy. And, I burned up a week, 10 days. Luckily, I caught it because, it was a fluke that I even went back and caught it. But there are so many options, so many things that you just have to be aware of and know what is the best practice.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing with ads is, the technical stuff is complex because there's a lot of things that Google doesn't necessarily will obviously tell you have control over, but you do. So that is important. But the biggest thing I think with ads, and that goes for Facebook ads too, is the actual ad, the copywriting.
Yes.
It's a lot of it is what you say. So having, 11 years of experience in writing ads at our agency, we've got a pretty good pulse on what converts well and what doesn't. So we don't have to waste a lot of time. But if you're a dentist trying to do this on your own, man, you didn't go to school for all those years to write ads, right? So it's, let somebody that, has a little bit of experience with that. So what we find is that the ad copy usually isn't real good, and that's costing them from some conversions as well.
Yeah, and I use a little analysis thing on some, on some text, and you'd just be surprised at the difference a word can make here and there. Same sentence, same message that comes across, but just a couple different placements of words or ideas can really change the whole SEO value of that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And
then the other thing too that I think that pictures, especially, one thing I kind of talk a lot about is I'm not a fan of stock photos when we can take photos of real people, take a picture of the real office to see, is it modern looking? Is it clean? You get a really good feel for it before you even go. And so pictures and video, I'm sure, are a very integral part of this entire process.
Yeah. And in fact, I was just talking with somebody yesterday about this. When we do website design, even, we take over some websites that are all stock photos. And to me, that's a big no-no. We've tested it with stock photos and without, and websites with actual, photos of the office, the staff perform much better. And I think it goes back to age-old saying is that people buy from people, right? Yes. And in dentistry, sometimes you don't think about sales and, selling things, but you are. I mean, at the end of the day, you're selling a solution to a problem, right? So you are selling in some capacity. So I think when people are going online to check you out, and by the way, people are going online to check you out, they want to see what the practice looks like, an office tour, where they want to see what the doctors look like. They want to see and get a feel for the office. And if you can really do that well on your website or anything that you do, even in your advert, your paid ads or whatever, I think you've got a leg up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always been told, I'm sure my audience gets tired of hearing me say it because but it's the truth, is that, if you have something that's just totally text, people may show up and read it. If you have a picture, it's like leaving breadcrumbs to the text. And then they say if you have a video, it's basically like leaving chocolate covered breadcrumbs in order to get people there. That video is just, it's just amazing how incrementally higher videos will score, and videos will help, you know, in driving traffic or ads or however, but videos are very important.
Yeah, no question. We try to get every one of our clients, the doctor, to do just a short, like 1 minute introduction video to them, to the practice and themselves. And we try to put that on the homepage of the website. Not everybody's comfortable doing it, but you know, we do our best, because you're absolutely right. Those video performs, and video is definitely a converting factor.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned too, is that we want to buy from people who we feel like we can connect with. And so it's a good practice for any business to have videos of introducing, their employees or who they are, what they do, instead of me having to try to read through and decipher it. If I get a concise, clear message from somebody from the company, I personally think that goes a long way.
Yeah. No question. And, we just launched a new service where we actually reach out to our clients' patients and try to get video reviews. So we've kind of developed this software that allows people to leave a dentist a video review right from their phone, and makes it simple for them.
Wow.
So it's working really well. I mean, a lot of people don't feel comfortable going on video. That's the biggest obstacle. But yeah. I'll tell you, if you can just get a few of those versus a written testimonial, video testimonials really are powerful. So definitely recommend that to anybody as well.
That's a great idea. The other thing somebody had pointed out to me years ago is also on our social media, the importance of using pictures or videos is the real estate value. Is that, if you have text, you have, I don't know, an inch, a copy or whatever, it's easy to get scrolled past, or maybe somebody didn't even see it. It got kind of blurred in with, the post before, post after. But, when you have that picture video, now all of a sudden you've widened up that space to maybe, 3 or 4 inches, much bigger attraction, much bigger draw.
Yeah, no question. I think that's an awesome thought, and it's absolutely spot on.
Yeah. So what are some things too, talking about websites, unfortunately, what I see is sometimes is we neglect the website. It was built, we take a deep breath, it's done, it's over, we put it up there, and, people may not, the company may not even go in there and look at it for 2 or 3 years. I mean, I've had some companies, I'm like, your website's not even working when I type your address in to go over there. So, nobody's really monitoring. But, what are some key things or some simple things that we can do to really enhance our websites to increase our conversions?
Yeah, these are going to seem pretty basic, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do this. But make sure your name, address, and phone number is on every page of the website and clear. People are lazy sometimes, and they don't want to have to go looking around for a phone number for you.
Right.
So make sure you've got that basic contact information on every page of the website. Also, always give them some way to communicate with you on every page. So other than phone, of course, but we've had a lot of good success with enabling text and chat services on our clients' websites.
Okay.
That's a great way, because not everybody communicates the same way, right? So the younger generation now would prefer to, do a chat or do a text versus picking up the phone and calling somebody.
Right.
So why not just, give people a multitude of ways to communicate with you? So, and also a strong call to action. You've got about 3.5 seconds from when somebody hits your website, and they've already decided if they're going to do business with you or not.
Right.
So have a good, strong call to action, something that's unique. We call it a lot of times a unique selling proposition. Why should somebody choose your dental practice versus the 50 others that might be within a 2-mile range of you? Yeah. So you've got to get that very high up on your website. We call it above the fold on a website.
Okay.
A strong call to action. Why should they choose you? And just really wow them with any photos of your practice and reviews.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important as well. I think is, for myself, I look at, whatever that first screen comes up, I'm not somebody that's going to scroll down like the old days. It was, I guess it was what we'd call the depth of the page. It was like, everything was on one page, and you'd have to scroll down and maybe, 4 or 5 different pages to find information. But what is the value? I guess the way I use it is I like to see as much information I can on that initial screen, but give me the option to click on something just to go a little bit deeper there.
Yeah, absolutely, no question. And you don't want to answer everybody's question in full detail, but you want to give them enough information to make them want to raise their hand and say, "Yeah, I want more information. I want to reach out and talk to you."
Right, right. All right, Chris. Well, I certainly do appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. Any last minute tips or ideas you want to throw out before we wrap this up?
I think it's just about taking action. We come across, marketing has in the last 10 years or so, 15 years, has become much more complex than it used to be.
Right.
You used to be able to put a ad in the yellow pages, maybe do a little direct mail, and you're kind of covered.
Right.
Well, now there's, hundreds of places that you could go spend marketing on online. So
Right.
we find a lot of people, instead of trying to get help or figure it out, they kind of put their head in the sand and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Which is the worst thing I think you could do. So take action. If you need help, go get it from somebody. But we're in a market now that we're rebounding, and now's the time to be aggressive and go after new clients, new patients, whatever business you're in. So my best advice is just go do something.
Yeah, and I think it's bringing up the old yellow pages, and I'm old enough that I remember those. That the way that you did business back in that day was somebody came out, created a yellow page ad for you, and then every year you just renewed it, and you really didn't give it much thought. So I think that's another concept we really have to be aware of today, is that everything we do is so dynamic and it changes. I hate to say it, but if you make a post or do something on the social media today, you're probably already outdated. Tomorrow something has changed. You need to do it's not quite that bad, but almost. And so we really have to be dynamic with our approach, our ads and everything, and always be reevaluating those.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. It's everything's fast now, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost immediate feedback, and you've got to be on top of it. And like Google Ads, for instance, it's not just one of those things that you can set up and then leave it and forget about it. It's something you've got to really be looking at almost every day to make adjustments and changes and things like that. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Well, thanks so much. Tell everybody. Well, first off, I want to ask you, what is a tool or a habit that you have that adds a lot of value to your day, either personal or professional?
Tool is probably going to be my calendar, because it's like we just talked, it's a fast world, fast moving industry. And, right. If we don't have good time management, then we're letting our clients down too. So for us, probably our calendars and communication, just making sure that we're talking and we know what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. I think if you can cover that in whatever business you're in, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, tell people, I know that you really work with the dental trade, but tell people, who's your client, how you can help them, of course, where they can reach out and get a hold of you, and then also where they could pick up the ultimate guide to internet marketing for dentists, because I think, as we've talked, a lot of this will translate to the general public as well.
Yeah, no question. So we work with really anybody in the dental industry, whether it's a general dentist, cosmetic dentist, orthodontist. We have pediatric dentists, endodontists, any of the specialties as well. So really anybody in the industry. We typically only work with one client per market, so we don't want to oversaturate ourselves. And we're really what you would consider more of a boutique agency. We're not a big company. We're always going to kind of have that old-fashioned approach to our clients where we have personal communication. So the best way to reach out to us is just go to the website, kickstartdental.com. There's a button right there on the homepage that you can book a free strategy session. Actually, with me, I do all of the strategy sessions. And it's no obligation. It doesn't cost you anything. And, if you're interested, you'll get a lot of detailed information about your current situation with online marketing and what your competition looks like, what your market looks like. It's pretty in depth. So at least you'll know a little bit more about where you stand, as a practice. So just go to kickstartdental.com, do that. That's probably the best way to reach out to us.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, if you're a dentist out there needing some help, y'all reach out to Chris and see what he can do for y'all. So Again, that's going to do it for this episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, you can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major social media platforms, as well as the podcast platforms, Google, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to regularly, if you'll reach out, I'll be glad to get us added too. So for now, that's going to do it. So please take care of yourself and take care of your business.